I'm Sandi Toksvig, and this is What's the Dickens, a show that looks at art, literature and the moving image, or if you've just switched over from Sky Sports, it's pictures and books and films. Joining Chris Addison is a comedian who is also a famous supporter of West Bromwich Albion. Now, I have to confess I don't follow the football myself, but jolly well done on getting into the Championship. Please welcome Frank Skinner. I don't know why that's funny.
It isn't funny.
It isn't? Oh, okay. Joining Sue Perkins is a writer whose first book, Things Can Only Get Better, was set in the 70s and 80s and subtitled 18 Miserable Years in the Life of a Labour Supporter. And I'm thinking we may be due a sequel. Please welcome John O'Farrell. The first round is 3 steps to heaven. Our teams are shown 3 images in turn, each offering a clue to a famous film, book, play or musical. 3 points are awarded should they guess the answer from the incredibly difficult first image, reducing to just 1 for the ridiculously simple third picture. Okay, Chris and Frank are going to get us underway. Here is your very first picture clue. So obviously everybody knows that's Renault's Spanish Formula One ace, Fernando Alonso. I have to say he has slightly disappointed me this season. Yeah, Frank, do you follow the
No, I hate Formula One in all its manifestations.
And an extra point there to Frank, which I think is...
If I said I drove to work,
yeah.
I wouldn't sound very sporty. I drive to work and back. Nobody would take that.
It's the driver's name rather than the
Fernando.
Profession.
Is it Gold, the best of ABBA?
No, but I like that. I tell you what, let's have a look at the second clue. What do we have here? We have some television aerials. Not a satellite dish between them.
Hold it. Aerials
Yes.
in The Tempest.
Yes, is that your answer?
Prosperous Books. The Tempest.
It is correct. Absolutely right. The answer is The Tempest. Well done. There you go. Let's just have a look at what the final picture was going to be. It was a shipwreck. I think that rather gave it away. The answer is, of course, William Shakespeare's The Tempest. This is what we saw. We had the racing driver, Fernando Alonso. Alonso is, of course, the name of the King of Naples, a major character in the play. And we had a picture of some television aerials. Ariel is the name of the spirit that serves the shipwrecked magician Prospero. And the third picture, it's the shipwreck. But you get 2 points. Well done. Terrific.
Fantastic. We're off.
Off and running. You could clap if you like. I've got a couple of...
You said that. I thought, you'd expect there to be applause here, but I don't come here often. I wouldn't know. Perhaps there's a convention on this show, just staring at the performance.
The more correct you are, the more silent they become.
Yeah. Okay.
They're mostly
if I
people...
do this...
Yeah. On the whole, we draw our audience from people who like to read books, and it's a solitary occupation.
It is.
You do get a lot of letters afterwards telling you how much they enjoyed your correct answer.
Yes. Yes, which is quite nice. Quick supplementary question. What is unique about the character of Miranda in The Tempest?
What is unique about her?
Unique about characters that other characters that Shakespeare... Jessica and Audrey are other characters
Was it the first time these names appeared?
Absolutely right. Shakespeare invented the name Miranda as well as...
Yeah.
Honestly,
is the letter for my first correct? Just arrived.
No one would spot you for a football fan. That was very impressive.
Thank you very much.
The Tempest opens with a dramatic shipwreck and features a wicked, scheming and a horribly deformed monster. It's like Robert Maxwell's life, but in reverse. Okay, Sue and John, over to you and your very first clue. Let's have a look. Wow. Oh, it's the 118 ad they didn't want you to see.
So isn't it an aggressive roadside tailor measuring a marathon runner for a pair of culottes that he ordered? Just seize the opportunity.
Anybody know who it is? Do you know who it is?
I can. It is the one that 70s runner.
That 70s runner?
Yeah, the one they parodied in the
I know who it is.
It is...
You don't want to help them, though. I can tell you his name is very, very important.
Give us the first name, we'll get the rest of it.
David.
David?
Yeah.
It could be anybody.
He said, give us a first name and we'll get it.
If it had been just Giuseppe, it would have narrowed the field.
Oh, it is David, yeah.
Move on to the next image. And Christmas tree.
Oh, it's nice.
What can it all mean?
Was that surname we didn't get important part of it?
It is a very important part, and Christmas is a very important part.
Okay.
David Bedford.
David Niven?
It's a Wonderful Life because it's Bedford Falls and it's Christmas and...
you are absolutely right. 2 points. It's a Wonderful Life. Let's have a look at the third picture. There we have the Angel of the North, which surprisingly still hasn't been stolen. The answer is It's a Wonderful Life, Frank Capra's heartwarming tale of a man learning to appreciate life and community. And this is what we saw. The athlete David Bedford having fallen on a running track. The film is set in the town of Bedford Falls. Do you see what we did there? A Christmas tree, which represents, and I think not totally surprisingly, Christmas, which is when the film is set. And finally we saw the Angel of the North, and it is of course an angel named Clarence, who shows James Stewart's character George Bailey what life would have been like had he not existed.
I thought you meant the Angel of the North was called Clarence there for a minute, which would have
Does
put
it
a
have a
wholly
name?
different light on the sculpture.
Can I just say that I actually thought this was a quiz about Charles Dickens. I thought, I've read the whole works. I've memorised large passages. I worked out a bit of a funny bit about Jarndyce versus Jarndyce. I've got the whole thing going, and now I find I've made a complete fool of myself.
Which is your favourite Dickens book?
I like the Pickwick Papers best.
That's a shame, 'cause it's not going to come up. Right. Surprisingly, It's a Wonderful Life was a flop at the box office, mainly because no one believed a failed banker would commit suicide rather than walk away with a fat pension. Our next round is Love It or Loathe It, in which our guests choose something or someone from the arts world that either delights them or repulses them, and they must claim that they both love it and loathe it in turn. The opposing team must then decide which of the opposite opinions expressed represents the truth. So, Frank, you are up first. What is your chosen work?
My chosen work is Andy Warhol.
OK, Andy Warhol. And are you going to love or loathe Andy to begin with?
I think I'll begin by loving Andy.
OK, so you love Andy Warhol. You have a minute to start now.
Well, the great thing about Andy Warhol is he's broken through that snobbery that art critics often have, that to be a great piece of art you have to be by Titian or by Van Dyck. He takes the ordinary things of life, the packaging, the soup tins, and recognises the beauty in them, and I really respect him for that. He breaks down all the borders. He makes the ordinary sacred. I also particularly like his wig. I like the fact if you're going to wear a wig, don't try and hide it. Don't get one that subtly fits in. Get a white plastic one and really be upfront about it. Yes, I wear a wig and I'm proud of it. It seems to fit in with the whole thing of no falseness, just being honest. He once said, the world is plastic and I want to be plastic too. And I love that celebration of the modern world. We're constantly apologising for industrialisation and commercialism, and he really embraced that. It's okay to sell art.
OK, I'm going to stop with that because I totally believe you. Any questions from John and Sue?
What's your favourite?
There's a fabulous painting of a guy injecting himself in the arm, which I saw in a gallery in Edinburgh last year, and there was a very posh lady from Edinburgh standing behind me, and she just looked and went, oh, no, no, no. And I thought that could be fabulous as the anti-drugs campaign in Scotland. Just say, oh, no, no, no.
It is time now for you to contradict yourself, so I'd ask you now to please loathe Andy Warhol.
I think Andy Warhol is a typical example of how if you're one of the in crowd, people think you must be talented in some way. He built his whole thing. He began in advertising and had that sort of cynicism that the advertisers have, that you can fool people, you can lead them to believe in almost anything. He once made a series of paintings called 10 Jewish Geniuses, and he wrote in his diary, I'm sure these will sell. It's like the worst possible attitude to art. I also really hate that wig that he wears. That seems to me to be a deliberate thing of, oh yeah, just because I'm doing it, just because I'm Andy Warhol, I can wear a wig and it's cool. And I really despise that. The paintings of artists that he did, they were photographs, not actually paintings at all. And he just did like silk screen printing on them. So in the end, he was almost having nothing to do with these paintings. He was just churning them out. He introduced mass production, basically, into art.
OK, I am going to get Sue and John to come to the crunch moment. You have to decide which is the truth. Does he love Andy Warhol or loathe him?
We think he loathes Andy Warhol.
We're of one mind.
I think I'm hoping so.
Yeah. Oh!
Good man.
Well, Frank gets 2 points there for beating the other side. OK, John, it's your turn to try to fox your opponents regarding your feelings. What have you chosen?
Sandy, I have chosen Lord of the Rings by Tolkien.
OK, and are you going to begin by loving or loathing?
I think I'll begin by loving Lord of the Rings.
Starting now, please.
Well, it's a bit of a guilty secret, but I really love Lord of the Rings. I have a secret anorak at home, and I put it on, and I pull the toggles tight, and I put on my tank top, and I'm straight back to being 16 again, into that whole world of, you know, of fantasy, good and evil, and a battle over Middle-earth. It's an epic struggle. It was written during World War II, and it's those big themes about sort of, you know, when civilization really was facing the abyss. And these characters are operating on a higher moral plane to the rest of us. You wouldn't get Gandalf the wizard claiming his witch's hat on expenses, you know. Just to have a really clear-cut good and evil battle with all that detail and really a clear winner and loser is why I love Lord of the Rings.
OK. You can please now present the opposing point of view and loathe Lord of the Rings.
I cannot stand these bloody nerdy Dungeons and Dragons fantasy books full of bloody orcs and dwarves and elves and no character you'd ever meet in real life. I mean, can you ever actually imagine, you know, actually meeting a hobbit? Sandy.
Hazel Blears, surely. Hazel Blears is right.
The dilemmas of these players, you know, do not emerge from their characters. There's no meaning to their dilemmas. It's all sort of fantasy and magic. You know, big rings. You need a ring. You know, go to bloody H. Samuel. Oh, well, it's a magic ring, so that's how they solve all the plot problems in Lord of the Rings. And you could do that in any book. You could just have, you know, Elizabeth Bennet has to meet Darcy if she defeats the magic dragon of Elendor or whatever. So for me, these books are just a load of bloody nonsense, and they're just they serve a purpose as therapy for spotty teenagers to stay in their rooms, and they'd rather disappear into their fantasy and go out and actually try and find a girlfriend.
Have you got a question?
Was it true? What was that? Can you do that? Can you do that?
That is a really good question.
Is it true?
Yeah.
What's the answer?
Well, I tell you what, it is. The answer is fact. It's time for you to decide.
I didn't believe either of them.
It's a double bluff. That's very unconvincing on
He's
both
actually
fronts.
ambivalent.
You're the guest.
You're the
You're the
guest.
captain.
You're
Yeah.
right. Damn it, I've got to take this in hand. Whatever you think.
I think you love Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. 2
That's all right.
points. The Lord of the Rings is set in a place called Middle-earth. It's much like Middle England, but slightly more pleasant, as they don't get the Daily Mail. We're going to take a break now, but before we go, here is a question for you at home. What lasts for over 20 minutes on the Lord of the Rings extended DVD? We'll give you the answer on our return.